I have with me here a book. It's called The 100. A ranking of the most influential persons in history, written by Michael H. Hart, who is a Jewish American, a mathematician, an astrophysicist, and a student of history. So he takes the top 100 men of all time and he ranks them. And he tells us why such and such a person is at number 1, why this person is at number 2. He explains why. Not just who is there at that position, but why. The list includes personalities like Jesus Christ, Moses, may Allah be pleased with them, Caesar, the Wright brothers, Napoleon, Shakespeare, Christopher Columbus, Michelangelo. But Michael Hart rated Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, at number 1. The greatest man to have ever lived. The most influential person in history. Allah Ta'ala tells us in Surah Al-Qalam, chapter 68, verse 4, and verily you, O Muhammad, are on an exalted standard of character, on the highest pedestal of morality, of character, and an example for all mankind. The complete biography of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, has been authenticated and circulated among scholars around the world, starting while he was still alive and continuing up till now. The Encyclopedia Britannica, in its 12th volume, states about Muhammad, peace be upon him. A mass of detail in the early sources show that he was an honest and upright man who had gained the respect and loyalty of others who were likewise honest and upright men. This is the Encyclopedia Britannica document. Now let's see what a famous French historian, Alamîn, in his book The History of the Turks in 1854, what did this famous French historian say about the Holy Prophet? He said, if greatness of purpose, smallness of means, and astounding results are the 3 criteria of human genius, who could dare to compare any great man in modern history with Muhammad? The most famous men created arms, laws, and empires only. They founded, if anything at all, no more than material powers which often crumbled away before their eyes. This man moved not only armies, legislations, empires, peoples and dynasties, but millions of men in 1/3 of the then inhabited world. And more than that, he moved the altars, the gods, the religions, the ideas, the beliefs and souls. Alamîn continues, he says, philosopher, orator, apostle, legislator, warrior, conqueror of ideas, restorer of rational dogmas, of a cult without images, the founder of 20 terrestrial empires and of 1 spiritual empire. That is Muhammad. As regards all standards by which human greatness may be measured, we may well ask, is there a man greater than he? This is what a French historian has to say about Muhammad. Mahatma Gandhi, spiritual and political leader during the Indian independence movement. He said about the Prophet Muhammad, I became more than convinced that it was not the sword that won a place for Islam in those days in the scheme of life. It was the rigid simplicity, the utter self-effacement of the Prophet, the scrupulous regard for pledges, his intense devotion to his friends and followers, his intrepidity, his fearlessness, his absolute trust in God and in his own mission. We go on further. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, a famous 18th century German poet, philosopher and scientist. What did he have to say about Muhammad? He said he is a prophet and not a poet, and therefore his Qur'an is to be seen as a divine law and not a book of a human being made for education or entertainment. He is admitting that this book is divine law. sent to Prophet Muhammad peace be upon him. Thomas Carlyle, an English author, in his book called Heroes and Hero Worship, was simply amazed, and he stated how one man single-handedly could weld warring tribes and wandering Bedouins into a most powerful and civilized nation in less than 2 decades. That was amazing. Sir George Bernard Shaw, Nobel Prize-winning Irish playwright and activist. He said, I believe that if a man like him, a man like Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, were to assume the dictatorship of the modern world, that if he was to become the dictator of the whole world, he would succeed in solving the problems in a way that would bring the much needed peace and happiness. These are all words of non-Muslims talking about our Holy Prophet, peace be upon him. And finally, the words of Reverend R. Bosworth Smith, who wrote in his book called Muhammad and Mohammedanism in 1946. He writes, head of the state as well as the church, he was Caesar and Pope in one. But he was Pope without the Pope's claims, and Caesar without the legions of Caesar, without a standing army, without a bodyguard, without a palace, without a fixed revenue. If ever any man had the right to say that he ruled by right divine, it was Muhammad. For he had all the power without the instruments and without its support. He cared not for dressing of power. The simplicity of his private life was in keeping with his public life. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned in Surah Al-Anbiya chapter 21 verse 107, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. We have sent you, O Muhammad, not but as a mercy for the Alamîn, mankind, jinn, and all that exists. This is the power and this was the status that was given to the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him. Each and everything, if you examine the life of the Holy Prophet, you can find examples of how to deal with people, with animals, even with plants. How should your behavior be towards Muslims and non-Muslims? He was a mercy for all, not exclusive property of the Muslims. No, he was a mercy for all mankind, all the creatures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير